not just more Doom. Building on the time-tested foundation of one of gaming's most important shooters, Midway's Doom 64 is a masterpiece of atmosphere and one of the most absorbing games on the N64, a brilliant adaptation any Doom or a horror fan can appreciate. It'd be easy to assume that Doom 64 is yet another port of the PC campaign found on almost every console ever, but it is in fact an almost entirely new game built on the groundwork of classic Doom. That unfortunately means there's still no jumping, ducking, or looking, but it puts its own spin on just about everything else you'd expect from the seminal corridor shooter. Not to mention it boasts an absolutely brilliant soundtrack that establishes an unbelievably thick and moody atmosphere, more akin to Dead Space and later id titles like Quake and Doom 3, rather than balls-out heavy metal mayhem. It's a game that demands a great pair of headphones or a healthy subwoofer. Understandably underrated in 1997, Doom 64 has aged wonderfully, and save for a few missteps, is up near GoldenEye as one of the system's greatest shooters. A quick note to old school PC gamers. While you guys were inundated with mods and map packs for Doom, we console gamers had to take what we can get, and in the case of Doom 64, what we got was a solid campaign that, for fans of classic Doom, would sate our need for shooting more monsters in hell. Sure, PC gamers could download a new mod or map pack whenever their dial-up modems would allow, but us console gamers had to take what we could get. So for all you out there saying, dude, it's just a Doom mod, you're not wrong. But it's a damn fine one at that. And it looks like the Doom 64 Absolution mod is easy enough to set up, but hey, I stick to what I know. PC gaming ain't my steez. Before the campaign even starts, Doom 64 gets shit right with password and memory card saves, take that Turok, and completely customizable controls, take that Hexen. It also does not require the aid of the expansion pack. All you need to play this game is a system and a controller, which is more than you can say for most N64 games. And self-aware jokes like the I own Doom difficulty level show that the producers knew their place. This is the level I played on, by the way, but let's get to the meat of things here. This ain't exactly your older brother's Doom. Doom 64 is 30 plus brand new levels, constructed with all new textures and lighting. Also redrawn enemies to fit these aesthetic upgrades. And with these come new traps, puzzles, and set pieces. Ceilings collapse and walls shift to reshape rooms right before your eyes. Statues and secret trap walls will shoot darts from across the room. There's more to opening some doors than just finding the keys, and what mysteries do the 3 secret artifacts hold? Classic Doom never felt this real or was this interactive. There's plenty of running and gunning, but there's so much more than monster closets and keycards in Doom 64. I'll get into why this can also be a bit of a bother later on, but more often than it isn't, the level design in Doom 64 is fantastic, and a step above most levels in classic Doom. But make no mistake, this is Doom. There is still plenty of running and gunning. As I said earlier, you're free to set up Doom 64's controls any way your demon's slaughtering heart desires. Setting the controls to a GoldenEye style layout made the game play perfectly, and despite only actually being 2D, the N64's analog stick works remarkably well. It's tough going back to the PlayStation 1's clunky D-pad after a few hours here. A subtle yet super important aspect of a game like Doom is weapon switching, and thankfully, Midway nailed this. This is still very much classic Doom, things can turn pear-shaped in an instant, and it's crucial to be able to cycle from double-barreled shotgun to rocket launcher to BFG, BFG back to shotgun in a moment's notice, and to do this while you're circle strafing around corners and through a mosh pit of enemy hellspawn. Smooth controls mean this game is never going to hold you back, and they're bolstered by a frame rate that's, well, as smooth as you could expect from an N64 game. I played through this game about 1.5 times and there wasn't the slightest hint of slowdown, and that's thanks to favoring 2D over true 3D. Let's face it, the Turok games don't hold up. Now some say GoldenEye doesn't hold up either, but I don't agree with that. But back in '97, this was state of the art. Doom 64 played it safe and was harshly rated, but time has flipped things. Turok's weird controls, Silent Hill-like fog, and unjustifiably huge levels aren't what they used to be. Nothing personal, Turok, but in 2013, Doom 64 is the better experience. So the story of Doom 64 is, I don't care. Come on, who plays these games for the story? But there is something to be said about the experience of playing Doom 64. Part and parcel to the success of Doom 64 is its emphasis on atmosphere. In fact, it's more in line with Quake 1 and Doom 3 than classic Doom. After turning out the lights and cranking up the new sound system, I put 3 to 4 hours into the mid to late game where you're making your descent into hell, and holy shit, did it feel like it. The lighting and art design progressed from spooky gothic architecture to some straight-up hellscapes. It's very impressive, however, it is Aubrey Hodges' brilliant soundtrack that ties everything together. Instead of the bombastic lo-fi butt metal of the original Doom, which has its charm and certainly its defenders, Hodges' soundtrack is eerie, ominous, and atonal, one of the greatest and most underrated soundtracks in horror. It could not be more different than goofy MIDI ripoffs of Metallica and Pantera songs, and it could not be more wonderfully unsettling. By the time I turned off the console and turned on the lights, I had a real coming out of the cave moment where I squinted my eyes and felt a sense of relief wash over me. It's the same feeling I felt when I marathoned Sweet Home, endured Silent Hill 2's Historical Society, or watched the West Mansion burn and collapse behind me. Doom 64 drew me in and stayed with me well after I had stopped playing. This is not at all what I had anticipated. Unfortunately, this experience doesn't really set in until the 10th level when you enter Hell proper, but once it does, it presents something unlike anything else on the system, the greatest piece of horror on the console. Well, exclusive to the console. All this is ignoring the fact that at its core, this is still the same old Doom. If classic Doom does nothing for you, it's unlikely Doom 64 is going to magically win you over. But even for fans of classic Doom, there's still some things you gotta watch out for. Unfortunately, in an admirable attempt to make Doom 64 different, there is an added emphasis on puzzle solving. And more often than I'd like to admit, this was a huge problem. Switches, traps, and secrets can be great, but too often Midway got carried away. Nearly every single level had a moment where I threw up my hands and said, okay, now what? I'd fight my way through a swarm of monsters only to hit a switch that opened up a door somewhere. Or perhaps there's a switch on a wall that I've been running past for like 10 minutes. I never actually did it, but I came damn close many times to pulling up a fact because very often I became utterly lost. And if I wasn't getting lost, then I was running into the occasional trap, stumbling through awkward shoehorned platforming segments, or being bum rushed by terribly overpowered lost souls. Doom 64's deadliest encounter is not the Cyber Demon or a gang of Hell Knights, it's a couple of lost souls. In this game, they're super strong and attack with such persistence that you can go from 100 plus health to dead in a few seconds flat. And that can be a drag because there are no mid-level saves. If you die, it's back to the beginning, and folks, these levels ain't short and they ain't easy. But all this was never enough to get me to stop playing. For what it's worth, one time I was lost, meandering for like 20 minutes on one level, only to die right before the exit. I took a deep breath, loaded my game, and started the level again without a break. This was right in the middle of my 3-4 hour marathon. Doom 64 got its hooks in me and didn't let go no matter what. There's also no multiplayer, which is a shame. The intro shows a bunch of Doom dudes fighting a ton of monsters and it looks super badass. Sitting down with a buddy in the dark playing some split-screen co-op would have been pretty rad, but the single-player campaign is so solid it was clear Midway had their priorities in order. And while this game has problems, there are a few shitty things that didn't make the jump to Doom 64. Mr. Raise the Dead and Hit You From Anywhere, the Arch-Vile, never appears in Doom 64. Same for his homing missile-launching friend, the Revenant. And good riddance. Listen, there's hard, and then there's ridiculous. And the same goes for the Nightmare difficulty, which is also absent. Watch Me Die is just lots more enemies, not lots more infinitely respawning enemies, so it's something non-crazy people can enjoy. Something must be addressed. The name Doom 64 is dumb, and like I mentioned at the top of the review, kind of misleading. To be fair, Midway wanted to call this game simply Absolution, hence the name of the PC mod Doom 64 Absolution. But the name was changed to Doom 64 to help with marketing. Doom 64 had the rotten luck of coming out in April '97, a few months after the first Turok in Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, which, for their time, was the future. But listen, there's a reason why most of the best of the N64 has been remade on other systems. Most early polygonal games do not hold up. 3D gaming and polygonal graphics didn't hit their strides for many, many more years, which is why looking back, it's games like Doom 64 and Mischief Makers that hold up best on the N64. But the real hero here is Mr. Aubrey Hodges, whose music makes Doom 64. Hodges is also responsible for the frightening soundtracks to Doom and Final Doom for the PlayStation 1. He continued to score id Software ports like Quake and Quake 2, and also, whoa! I guess I have a reason to care about Biofreaks now. He eventually found himself working on Project Copernicus with troubled developer 38 Studios. Hodges is clearly a talented man, I hope he's doing well. People often ask about the music used in my reviews, and usually it's soundtracks ripped from the game. However, this time I was more than willing to purchase the Doom 64 soundtrack off of Aubrey Hodge's Bandcamp page. I can only assume the money goes to him, so give the man a couple of bucks the next time you need some background music for a Halloween party. Coming back to the N64, I feel like a lot of these games are difficult to recommend without nostalgia. I feel like you need to have grown up with the N64 to really appreciate, well, the deeper cuts in the library. Doom 64, however, is for anyone who appreciates moody, atmospheric shooters. So fans of BioShock or Dead Space, who also enjoy the trappings of classic Doom, should pick up this game. It's also pretty cheap, don't pay too much for it. So there's the happy video game nerd saying, don't get spooked, shoot the monsters, and thanks for watching. Cheers.